So I was talking to Tom Curran, I trust. Tom Curran says Kyle's getting frustrated with Garoppolo, some of his decisions. I had an NFL reporter yesterday text me something, DM me, and said, don't poo-poo this, it's real. Lynch loves him. Shanahan's about ready. His legacy hasn't been formed. He's not losing another Super Bowl because of Jimmy G. It is the strangest big rumor. The whole Garoppolo-Brady thing is how much credibility do you give it?
Well, look, I mean, I think you and I talked the day after the Super Bowl on this very set. I think, well, let's give credit to Skip Bayless, right? Skip has said that Brady always wanted to be a Niner. He's from Northern California. Anyone who's our age, and he's actually my age, grows up idolizing Joe Montana. He plays the same position, and he's won more Super Bowls than Joe Montana, who's compared to.
It was the coolest football team for a decade in the NFL.
But it's not happening. It's not happening. I don't believe it's happening. You listen to Eric Mangini on First Things First, and he says it doesn't fit with – you have to tailor what you do to what Tom Brady has always done, and that's not how Kyle Shanahan plays. Right. So does it make sense in the world of fantasy football? You take an all-time winning quarterback, because the idea is, would Tom Brady have made that throw to Emmanuel Sanders? Would he have completed that pass? Well, he at least would have gotten into a place where the guy could catch the ball. That was an uncatchable ball.
Right.
The answer is absolutely. But could Tom Brady get them to a Super Bowl? And I don't know if the answer is yes. I don't think it fits together. So are you frustrated? Yes, you're frustrated. But this is like a marriage. Are you frustrated? Yes. Are you to the point to where you're willing to end the marriage? That's very, very different.
That's right.
To be with Tom Brady. And I think the big thing is the more teams we hear, the more it appears obvious, and Tom Curran did mention this, that New England is the rightful home. That's the best fit. That checks the most boxes. That unsettles him the most. I can't see him going to San Francisco. I can't see him going to the Chargers or to the Raiders, because there's too steep of a learning curve, either for him, for a new system, but more likely for a system to match to what he's always done.
How about the Chargers? Went and got a Pro Bowl guard.
They did.
And they could take a left tackle.
They're a very well-run football team.
They are. And they could get a left tackle, Tom. We solved a guard issue, our primary weakness.
Yes.
We'll get a tackle with the left tackle with the sixth pick. This is an incredible tackle draft. 2 receivers, good back that can catch, 2 pass rushers. You have to face Mahomes twice a year.
I don't think it's about facing Mahomes. Again, Shane Steichen's been calling plays for all of 5 minutes.
So you don't think Chargers works at all?
Again, on paper, they have the best players.
Yes.
Right? Like they have, I don't know what happens with Melvin Gordon, but Austin Eckler and
Henry.
I mean, it's not Hunter Henry who they're going to franchise.
Mike Williams
out on one side, Keenan Allen on the other.
It's incredible.
Oh, they have. And then defensively, I think people seem lost. And they didn't have Derwin James most of last year.
Their best athlete.
He might be the best defensive player in football, not named Nick Bosa. And they have Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. Like, they got everything. But that move wasn't about Tom Brady. That move was about getting, I think they fleeced Carolina. Remember, they trade away Russell Okung, who I love, a brilliant dude, but he missed most of the year with blood clots.
Yeah,
He's in the last year of a deal, and he's going to command a bigger salary. You get younger by 4 years, a guy under contract for 2 years.
And he's great.
You fix your guard issues, and then you build out and you move a guard to tackle is probably the plan. I don't think there's a correlation. Do I think it hurts their offer? No. Like, hey, look, we're willing to work. We know offensive line was an issue, whether it's Tom Brady or Tyrod Taylor at quarterback for the Chargers.
Okay. So I saw this. I watched Luka and Zion last night. And
I'm fascinated by what you saw when you watched it.
Well, I mean, Luka's played over 100 NBA games. Luka's played 100 European games. He is a much more refined product. But and right now, Luka, and I said this earlier, if you told me in 20 years, Luka is the 3rd all-time NBA scoring leader, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I can totally see it. Zion's raw, fascinating, got a long way to go. He's not refined, got a lot to sandpaper. Body could be part of it. But it is interesting, is that Luka's going to have a different life. The Cowboys take all the oxygen out of Dallas. Mark Cuban's the most famous owner. Luka can drop 28. The microscope's not that intense. Alvin Gentry, after the game last night, is like, I'm over all these questions. He's a number 1 pick. The shoe blows up at Duke. I mean, he's getting me to a television to watch Pelicans basketball.
He's must-see TV. There's no question.
He's unbelievable. And it's funny, Doug. I saw KD say, get me out of small market OKC. I covered Shaq in Orlando. Get me out of here. I've seen Kareem in Milwaukee. It's too small. Like, it is interesting. Zion is a difference between a great player and a phenom. This thing for Zion's going to be tough. A lot of heat on him, don't you think?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, he's going to continue to get a pass because it's New Orleans, because he's 19. He's putting up these numbers. They're not necessarily winning because of it. He didn't look like that was his first back-to-back, and he played the most minutes he's ever played. The first half, he did not look like he had the same energy that he normally had, and his own teammates have kind of pointed that out. But, look, it's his first year. I mean, it's his first year. He can't make a jump shot, and he's statistically dominating the league. He has no idea what he's doing in terms of defensive rotations or where he's supposed to be, and he's still a fascinating watch. Yeah. So, look, if this is our first snapshot, I'm fascinated by it. My question becomes, who has the better career? And I think the Luka thing is fascinating because he's not a great athlete, but he's smart and strong and understands how to create space. And look at what he did to Drew Holiday, who's a tremendous defender. Yeah. One of the last plays of the game. It ends up being a missed shot, but the step back, then the hezzy, then he gets in the lane. Zion comes over, he kicks it out to the corner. They missed the shot, but he can still create space in spite of the fact, or despite the fact that he's not a great athlete. I think maybe what we're missing is that Luka is what maybe Larry Bird would be if he was coming up today. Yeah. And we have, here's a guy who dominates in Europe as a teenager and has come over and kind of dominated the NBA. Yeah. We're so fascinated with these other guys that dunk and fly all over the place. Here's a dude that does a little bit of everything at a very young age, and his team is winning because of it. I think Luka is maybe more the story, and you're right, it does get buried in the Cowboys nonsense and the fact that the Mavericks have frankly been bad for the last 5 years.
Yeah. So I saw the Bobby Marks and some of the execs and people who cover the NBA for ESPN did the best 25 under 25 players in the NBA. The first thing that's fascinating is Luka, Zion, Jason Tatum, Ben Simmons are all very unique players. One guy, Zion, is zigging, the league is zagging. Jason Tatum feels old school wing, score, defend. Ben Simmons can't shoot in a shooter's league, and Luka can give you everything. He can shoot, he can pass. They're all kind of different dudes.
They are different. I actually don't think Zion is zigging that much. I understand what you're saying in that he's only shooting twos. But again, it's kind of how I don't know what people expected, but what I've told you is he's a small ball five. Now, what's going to allow him to be a superstar is if he can learn to consistently shoot the basketball. Okay? Consistently shoot the basketball, because unlike Draymond Green, who's a small ball five, or PJ Tucker, who's a small ball five, or any of these other guys that they're trying to kind of recreate what Golden State had, he can actually score in the low post. You put a guy his size on him, and he's unstoppable. He has great post game, great feel down there. You put a bigger guy on him, and his only thing to do is just out jump him. Yeah. What you need him to do eventually is be able to space the floor, because space is important. Right. It's what kind of limits Ben Simmons. But the other thing, and this is fascinating, you don't see Trae Young listed there, is the defensive end is incredibly important, and your ability to be versatile defensively. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be great, but can you guard multiple positions, especially 4 or 5 positions? If you can do that, now you have a chance to be a superstar. And I think all of those guys you listed have that ability.
Well, it's funny because I like Ben Simmons, but I get the flaws. But they start talking about Ben Simmons, and he's first in the NBA in steals per game, 3rd or 4th in deflections, 2nd in loose balls. He's an incredibly long player.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I feel like, have bailed on Ben Simmons. And then you look at him and you look at some of the analytics, and it's like, is it possible that we should stop trying to change Ben and just say, okay, this is what he is? It's like I said this morning, your kid's got ADHD. This is what he is. Find what works with that, instead of trying to make him some kid who can sit for 8 hours and read a textbook. Ben Simmons, I thought before I read this, I thought, am I the last guy that likes Ben Simmons? Because it feels like the league's bailing on him. God, 6'10", defensive, long.
No, I don't think the league's bailing on him, and I agree with you. Like, you're obviously a progressive education sort of dude, right? Everyone has if you have enough kids, you have a kid who has some issues, and you try and find education that works for them, right? Which is, it's about fit. Right. And, I mean, look, we got into the discussion last week about Giannis, and you can tell me that Giannis can shoot, and I can provide you with the statistical data, the free throw data, the three-point data that says he's not a good shooter. Yeah. But, they allow him, they tell him to shoot, to keep the defense honest. Probably takes a couple of too many, but they've also created a system where he's either the center or, they bring in one of the Lopez's, and now they have a center who can shoot, and they space out the floor.
Yeah.
That's the problem with he and Embiid. Embiid can shoot, but Embiid's kind of an unstoppable low post weapon,
right.
But you're negating both of their strengths when they're on the court together.
It doesn't work.
So the problem is not as much Simmons, although I do think that he should be encouraged to let some of those fly. Even if he shoots a poor percentage, it's a confidence thing. He can make 25, 30% eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Jordan couldn't shoot when he got in the league. Magic couldn't shoot when he got in the league.
No question.
Jason Kidd was Ace-in Kidd until
Jason couldn't shoot for a long time.
Right, and he was just a set shooter, and you left him open, and you pick your poison, and he would make you pay. So I do think there's something needs to get through where he needs to continue to work on his shot, on his balance, find his spots on the floor that he can make them. But I also think finding a system that works for him, and that's where it's an embarrassment of riches, the fact that they have Tobias Harris to go along with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. But that doesn't, just because you have all that star power doesn't mean they all the pieces fit together. And I think that's the biggest problem. Just like putting a kid that has ADHD or some sort of issues in learning in a traditional learning environment.
Doesn't work.
The fit doesn't work.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.